In 1948, there was this guy called Daniel Malan. He was the leader of a national party in South Africa. He was Britain as the colonies were during that time. So this guy introduced something that will go down in history to be called an apartheid regime. This apartheid regime simply meant they had to segregate some rights and freedoms between the whites and the blacks. That segregation made the black community, it made it very hard for them to succeed in life. And most of the communities were poor. And this led to a few members of the community who tried very hard to be successful to have a burden, because if you are successful in a family of 10, then the other family members, including your parents, become your burden. And from that time, the word black tax emerged. Black tax is basically the money that you have to send to your folks and their relatives and your siblings and the village and all these people who feel they're related to you in some way, just because you made it in life. And some of them, or most of them, feel they are entitled to be given this amount of money. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Simboni. Today, I want to talk to you about black tax. But even before I go to that particular subject, I have a friend of mine who has bought about 170 goats back at home. The other day, I was with him. He was showing me two of them had just given birth. And even as I'm talking, I assume two or three are still giving birth. So in the next 6 or so months, he was talking to have 200 or 300 plus in terms of goats. I also have another friend of mine who has invested in simple real estate units, and the folks are collecting from 60 to 80,000 every month. And these are just the ways of dealing with the black tax. But sometimes it can be very difficult to come out of this problem. And today I want to share with you my own experience, the experience of my friends that I've just mentioned, and how you can deal with this kind of problem. I'm calling it a problem because you can ignore it entirely. People have ignored it entirely, and they're just living their lives. But upon moral standards, it's not the right thing to do. Number one, what you may want to do uh, to deal with this black tax is invest in what your folks know. Invest in what they are currently doing. Okay, probably your folks are doing something back at the village. So don't think that your idea is too great and take it to them. No, that won't work. See what they are doing already and pump in some money and make it count. Of course, that can be a bit expensive. Uh, I've tried that, very, very expensive. Another way you can deal with black tax is you have a fixed amount per week or per month, depending on your income, where you send to them. So maybe every Friday or every Wednesday, any amount you make, you slash a specific percent and then you send to them. This comes in line that it can be very expensive to invest in what they are doing. Then you may want to commit maybe 10%, 15%, 5%, depending on the industry that you're in. And you'll be sending to them so that they don't have the freedom of calling you every now and then to request for cash. They just know at least on Friday or Saturday or Monday, I receive amount X from my kid. That can also help you to organize your budget. It can help you to grow personally and also become responsible at the same time. Number three, you may want to make them understand that you are also trying to make ends meet, and tell them your problems. Most of us, we shy away from telling our parents that I have to pay rent, I have to eat, I have to pay for my fee, I have to do this and this. So also make them understand that it is tough on you, and it's not that you are floating in cash, but you are also trying to plan your future so that you may not end up in the same position as they are. So talk to them, help them understand so that they can also struggle on their end as you struggle in your end. That can be a very good way of dealing with the black tax, because when you tell your parent, this week I'm trying to collect my fees, then they might give you a break. Or next week I'm trying to pay rent, they may give you a break. Or the other week I'm trying, and this comes as a symbiotic relationship, so that you tell them you're struggling with rent, they opt to send you food from the village. You tell them next week I'll be struggling with fee, they have some merry-go-rounds and chamas, they can even boost you. So it becomes a planned kind of activity where you are dealing with the black tax at the same time. And then number four, you need to have a long-term goal that includes them. I think this is a very big challenge. Long-term goals are like now paying for your security, your retirement, your insurance. And sometimes it may be difficult if you don't include them. At certain age, they will come now to demand more. And whenever you're planning your future, you always need to have them in mind so that your success also becomes their success. And if you don't do that, then you may run into complications. You are a grown up, you have a family, and they're also demanding more and more from you. So this is my appeal: as you continue to grow, as you continue to plan your goals, keep them in mind in a sense that if you have maybe 5 or properties or 10 properties, just give them 2 or 3 or 1 that they can be able to sustain themselves and grow old happily. Yes, keep them in mind when you plan your goals. Number 5, use agriculture to boost or enhance their food security. Most folks out there, their main problem is food security. They may need some cash of moving around, but the moment you invest, you help them invest in agriculture. Of course, depending on where you live and depending on which type of agriculture, it can be animals, as I had mentioned, my friend who has over 170 goat and sheep, or real estate, or so not real estate, sorry. You may want to invest in farming if you have big chunks of land. The moment you do that, you solve like 80% of their problems. Always try to think of how you can invest in agriculture. And I assume by now they already know the skills, and they know how to navigate around the small agribusiness that they are already doing. So you may consider that as the first priority, where you want to empower them as a way of dealing with black tax. And then, of course, lastly but not least, make them deal with the secondary problems. Don't be soft-hearted, whereby every time they call, you respond. Every time they call, you respond. They call a problem of 500 shillings, you respond. That puts them in an overly dependent kind of situation. And you may not want that, because they had those problems before, you were the problem before, and they somehow navigated through those problems. So it is not now that they cannot solve a problem or two. You may want to deal with the primary problems that affect them, not secondary problems. And if you put your yourself in a situation where you're solving secondary problems, it will become a vicious cycle, and you may not even progress, because the 200, 500, 800, 1000 you're sending to them cumulatively around the month, it could be a lot of money. So once you have a working plan on how you're going to sort them out, it becomes easy for you, and you make it more subtle that I'm not solving any secondary problems unless it is a primary problem and you need my help. That's where I come in. Yeah, so those are six main approaches or techniques on how you can deal with black tax. And the moment you deal with black tax, it gives you a foundation or a stepping stone now to start something of your own. But if you ignore that, of course you can, something will always be haunting you, that you have a gap that you have not filled. So the best journey, the best way to start your financial journey is to deal with the black tax. And using those key tips that I've shared with you, I hope you can always navigate or work around your folks, your relatives, or your siblings back at home, who are somehow who you feel somehow they are eating into your finance and retarding your growth. Thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. More episodes about finance and wealth are on the way.